Hey everyone, welcome back to Culz Book Reviews. We do have a couple of these in the backlog, so at some point you're going to get like a couple in one day. But today you're just getting the one because today is September 30th, which is the day James Dean died while driving to a race in Salinas. Now, he died in his Porsche Spider. After only being in 3 major films, he had some small bits as well as a little bit bigger roles in like some TV productions and smaller things like that. But most people only know him from East of Eden, Rebel Without a Cause, and Giant. Now, we have done some different books about James Dean as well as looking at one documentary on him. And so, being with what day it is today, we wanted to take a look at another book. So, having already covered the death of James Dean, we were like, do we cover one about his life or perhaps a behind-the-scenes look at a movie he made? And that's when browsing, I think it was Amazon or Goodreads, I came across this, and it's called The Rebel, An Imagined Life of James Dean. So this is supposed to be, and obviously just one person's take, but what would have happened had James Dean survived the crash on September 30th, 1955. So let's take a look at the book and get to my thoughts. Alright, so we'll take a look at the cover first. You got a kind of side profile of James Dean there, and then The Imagined Life of James Dean. It's called The Rebel, because obviously that's his most prolific film, is Rebel Without a Cause, and it's kind of the character he ended up playing in most of the films. A novel by Dann, author of The Silent and Memory Cathedral. I gotta say though, as far as the cover goes, it's a really good design. Just kind of minimal, but I don't know, something about it pops with that gray and black. On the side you see the Rebel, Dann, and then Morrow. And on the back it's just a reverse of the other side. And then it says From the Rebel, kind of gives you a little excerpt from it. And then down below is the ISBN, but it is covered up by a sticker, so unfortunately I can't show you the whole thing. Alright, at the end it comes out to be 401 pages long. And like you'll see, it's obviously a novel, so just writing, and there's not even some drawings throughout or pictures or anything, because obviously this is post the crash in 1955, but it does got that little picture there, which I think is on the soft covers. So let's discuss the book and my thoughts about it. Alright, so I guess getting into my thoughts, oh man, I guess I don't know what I was expecting from this one. It's one that I was really excited to read just because I thought it was a fun kind of thought experiment, and I don't know if it was delivered well. The writing isn't terrible. It's definitely not the writing that gets me. It was an easy read as far as like understanding it, or you know, knowing when characters would speak. Not really feeling bored, but just feeling like perhaps the author didn't know the characters. I mean, everyone just seems so mean in this book, so unlikable. I remember getting, I don't know, maybe 70 pages through it and messaging James and Josh as well as our buddy David and just being like, this is perhaps the most disrespectful fan fiction. And it's almost like a I don't know, I've never read 50 Shades of Grey, so it's not a great comparison, but everyone kind of knows that that was a fan fiction of Twilight. That feels like it here. I mean, there's a lot of intimate scenes between James Dean and a lot of people, be it Marilyn Monroe, which he never knew in life. There is a like tabloid type of book that collects a lot of those tabloid stories, and one of it is maybe he knew Marilyn towards the end of his life, but as far as I'm aware, there's no actual record of them meeting, which again wouldn't be such an issue after the car crash because it's an imagined thing, right? But it's more that their story, their relationship starts before the car crash, and actually Marilyn goes to the shop where Dean picks up the Porsche the day of the accident. There's a lot of intimate scenes, so it's not for younger readers, we'll say. Between a lot of people, and everyone, like I said, it's just so unlikable and mean, and you know, obviously no one is black and white. Everyone has shades of gray, good parts, bad parts, but man, everyone in this book was just terrible, a terrible person, making terrible choices. And that's what kind of leads to Dean and Pierre's relationship deteriorating a second time. Because in this book, Dean, after his crash, goes back to New York, and Pierre actually goes to visit him, but he has to go out and meet with his friends and he finds just some random woman that he invites back to his hotel room, and then of course Pierre's there, so it's just like bad choice. Pierre's son, who is a real person in real life, in this book the author says that was Dean's kid, so I guess it's hard sometimes playing with the history of real people. But yeah, and then Marilyn's always messing up James Dean's life, but always going behind the back of her husband's, and all her husbands are beating her up and doing drugs, and she's always doing drugs, and she's lying to Pierre, and then she's not lying to Pierre, but she might be lying to James Dean, and Dean's a womanizer in this one, and Pierre is kind of unlikable as well. And then of course, Marilyn dies, which makes sense, I guess, in the sense of the story. Dean living probably wouldn't have affected that portion of history. A lot of the changes would have been more with what he did as far as films, and maybe what some other people didn't do as films, some of the people that got his roles. But yeah, Marilyn dies, and he sees a aide for Bobby Kennedy, but the book never answers that. Kind of spoiler there. 100% saying that he killed her. A lot of people say, yeah, he was there before and after, more to get the book of kind of like secrets that she was going to go on TV and kind of expose, but that he didn't really kill her. And Bobby's kind of just not terribly mean-spirited. Maybe he's the least mean-spirited in this book, I don't know. But he doesn't portray like a confident person. In fact, he mirrors James Dean a lot in this one. Yeah, so we don't get an answer there. And in fact, him and Dean fight. There's a lot of kind of fit fights. James Dean's fighting everyone. He's doing lots of drugs, womanizing, being late. Now, he does get some different movie roles. The most notably, and I guess the one that made me text Josh and James, was the part about the Billy the Kid movie, which he was in. As well as Elvis is in here. Again, kind of just like playing that fanfic. Would all these people have actually met had Dean actually lived? Probably no. But Dean meets him while he's still in the hospital as far as Elvis, and towards the end of the book helps him I should say towards kind of the middle of the book, he helps him get some movie roles, including one where he plays Jesse James. Dean plays Frank James. And so the Colonel's obviously in it. Colonel's super slimy, so I guess the most true to character, at least how he's portrayed today, he's kind of portrayed kind of a slimy character. I'm trying to think what else. JFK still gets assassinated. He's not really in the book outside the times Marilyn mentions him to Dean, and just more or less to get Dean jealous of Marilyn, because a few times Dean in here proposes to Marilyn, and she's like, no one can marry me, blah blah blah, and she gets married like 4 times in the book. And Dean gets married twice, once to Pierre, who still passes away in the same type of scenario that she did in real life, where she it was via some medication and overdosing on that. But it was much earlier in this book than it was in real life. And if we're talking about things that might not have happened had Dean lived and had they actually gone together, it just doesn't feel like what would have happened. To just kill her off even earlier is just a very odd choice, I suppose. But then Dean gets into politics, he wins governor, beats Ronald Reagan. It's a battle between 2 actors, and it doesn't say that he was going to be the VP with Bobby Kennedy, but it does kind of insinuate, even though he doesn't want to, he's going to say yes. But that comes to the end of the book. But a couple of these storytelling ideas or choices or twists or turns or whatever you want to call them, I did kind of call, like when Pierre was about to go, she was saying all these things, and I was like, I swear, if they put that in here, that's just so mean to not change. Like, you changed a lot, right? But you couldn't change that. And then I guess it's James Dean's fault that Bobby Kennedy died in real life, because in this book, Bobby Kennedy doesn't die the day in the hotel going through the kitchen by Saran, but rather it's Dean who gets killed pushing Bobby out of the way. But that's why. And I guess another kind of interesting thing is this kind of hypothetical, what if Dean lives, or alternate reality. Dean goes into politics a lot. I see that a lot, including like Monument Mythos, which had Dean becoming president. So it's kind of interesting that a lot of people see him going that way. But yeah, like I said, it just seemed kind of mean-spirited. There was parts that honestly I just kind of felt depressed reading the book. It was not my favorite. You know, we did the death of James Dean, which I think I kind of gave that negative reviews mainly because how it was titled, and having got some input from the author of that one and what he said he wanted to title it, which made more sense with the story. I might recommend that one more. I don't know. The Who Killed James Dean, definitely fantastical and fictional, and has its fantasy aspects, you know, as far as like the intimate scenes or whatever you want to call them. But this one just played out like fan fiction on overdrive, and I don't know, felt disrespectful to some of the characters that were real. I mean, obviously there's a lot of real characters. Oh, and the Colonel is running Dean's campaign as well as Bobby Kennedy's, so that's another twist, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, at some point we got to do a review and talk more about some of these other people in here, just to give them better ideas, or give you guys better ideas of books to read. And I know this one's fictional, and it's just one author's take, and he has some other books that I might actually pick up and read. There's one or two, I think, about dinosaurs, so those ones might be on my short list or long list to read at some point. But as far as recommending this, I don't know if I can. There's just a lot of things that I didn't personally enjoy. You guys might. It's a good thing about art, it's kind of subjective, but in my views, I'd probably have to give this a 3 or 4 out of 10. While it wasn't the worst story, and Dean maybe starts getting a little bit more bearable, just like everyone's so unlikable and just mean and just so self-centered the whole time. Like there's no one to really root for. And then just some of the odd choices it makes, and I don't know if I can recommend it. If you guys want to, I'm not going to stop you guys. Go read it. Let me know if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm too harsh because of how much I've read about James Dean. And it's kind of like if I read a fictional book about Billy the Kid, right? You just get tied so much to the historical portions. It's hard to read a fictional one. But at this time, like I said, it also feels just like a fan fiction that someone would write on Reddit or Tumblr, and just not great. So yeah, 3 or 4 out of 10. If you guys want to read it, go ahead. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you have read it and enjoyed it, tell me what I missed. Maybe I missed something. Tell me in the comments below. But yeah, until next time, guys, we will definitely be doing a better James Dean book, hopefully for his birthday in February. There's quite a few good James, you know, we might do a couple. Maybe all of February we'll do James Dean. And then there's books on Elvis, Marilyn Monroe, Bobby Kennedy, Pierre Angeli that we can do, and just that will give you something better to read, and you guys can see who they really were. And yeah, this one obviously it says Imagine Life, but just takes so many different choices I wouldn't have made. So that's my review. If you guys think I'm wrong, tell me. But for more book reviews, click that link to your left, and for more about us here at Culz Paranormal, click that link to your right. We have some pretty cool things coming up. I don't want to spoil it yet, but stay tuned. Don't forget to hit that like and give us a subscribe, and tell us in the comments below if you've read this book, or if there's another fictional James Dean book we should check out. Tell us in the comments below.